Okay, now I'm visible. Okay, hello everyone. So in this session, we are going to discuss about the fifth unit of MMPM-6, and this unit is all about data collection, quantitative and qualitative. Okay. So now let's start. The first topic that we are going to discuss, that is data and the research process. It means how the data and the research process are related with each other. So that's what we are going to discuss here. The research objectives define the type and extent of information needed to achieve the research objective. So what given here, the research objective define the type and the extent of information needed to achieve the research objectives. The data needs are further clarified by the type of research designs chosen, as well as by the nature of the research, that is whether the problem at hand is one of exploratory or preliminary research or causal conclusive research, and so on, like that. It means the data needs, what kind of data is required, that depends on the research design as well as the nature of the research. So the type of research is going to decide the data requirement. So define the research objectives, so identify the information need and then formulate the research design. So here the sequence given: first we need to define the research objectives, then identify information needs, then formulate research design. After formulating the research design, we have to identify the type of data required, so identifying the secondary data need and the primary data needs. So here, as you can observe, that whether it is going to be secondary data or the primary data, that depends on the research design there. So quantitative and qualitative approach: factors which determine whether to use a quantitative or qualitative approach. The purpose of your research: exploration, configuration or quantification. Second, it is given application of the results, means formulation of policy and comprehension of the procedure. So these are the factors which determine whether to use a quantitative or qualitative approach. Okay, means what kind of approach, sorry for that interruption. Yes, the factors which determine whether to use a quantitative or qualitative approach, that depends on the purpose of your research. So okay, the purpose of research decides whether to use quantitative or a qualitative approach, and the application of the result also decide that whether to use quantitative or qualitative. There are differences between quantitative and qualitative research in terms of the techniques used to gather the data, the methods used to process and analyze the data, and the methods used to communicate the results. Types of data generally are two types: the primary and the secondary. Primary data are those that are collected specifically for the research situation at hand: sources, respondents, analogous case studies and experiments. These are sources of primary data. Secondary data already have been published and collected for purposes other than the specific research needs. It means whatever already published for other purposes can be used for our specific purpose in the research process. So internal or external, based on the location of the sources, we can say that internal from the MIS, Management Information System, or the routine reporting system. External, like government publications or financial reports, journals, periodicals, etc. Secondary data need and uses given use depend on the research design. To a limited extent, when conducting exploratory research which is concerned with identifying specific alternatives, may offer directions for action, particularly published content on consumer perceptions and reaction to various instruments in communication mix, media, habits, etc. Secondary data can be used to frame a primary data collection program, frame the sample, or to calculate the sizes of the sub samples. Sources of secondary data, we have the government organizations and official publications. Population statistics. So under the government organizations, we have first population statistics provide the census data on the population number and distribution by age, occupation and income, literacy, etc. And the second, that is given statistical abstract of India. Statistical abstract of India. The Central Statistical Organization publishes this annually, which contains the statistics from various sectors of the Indian economy. Economic Survey of India, a yearly financial report on various sectors like agriculture, employment, prices, etc. Trade statistics, RBI publishes statistics on imports and exports based on exchange control data. Publications from international organizations just like World Health Organization, UNESCO, ILO, UNO, etc. Library journals and research agencies. Third, given data warehousing and data mining. Data warehousing is to a central database. Data warehouse is the central database from several operating systems in the organization. The data mining, it is all about the process of analyzing the big database. And the fourth one, that is the customer database. So these are different sources of secondary data. Now next, move on to the limitation of secondary data. First, it is the problem of data accuracy. In the context of current research problems, first steps to evaluate accuracy of the secondary data. First, identify the data source. Second, examine the purpose for which the data was published. Assess the source in terms of the quality of data expected. These are the ways, these are steps by which we can find out the problem of the data accuracy. Second, we have the data fitness problem. Secondary data rarely completely relevant to the information needs of the problem at hand. If they are relevant, the degree of fitness to given problems may be impeded by units of measurement, class definition, and recency. So that's why the data fitness is also the problem for the secondary data. And the sources of the primary data that here given, both exploratory and conclusive research scenarios demand the use of significant amount of primary data. So why we need the primary data? For the exploratory and conclusive research, for both purposes we need the primary data. And following are the different sources of primary data. First, there you have the respondents, the type of data collected from the respondents. Just like information on the past behavior, intentions of likely behavior, level of knowledge, attitude, opinions, lifestyle data. So these all kinds of information can be obtained from the respondents directly. Second, we have primary data from analogous situations, just like a case study similar to the problem situation. Second, we have simulation, a partial depiction of the marketing system that focuses on certain component, computer-based techniques, experimentation used to investigate cause and effect relationship among marketing variables. So advantages are just like offer more in-depth information due to the ability to more precisely adjust the data collection method. Greater degree of fit as researcher is more flexible to choose the units. Drawbacks also, just like there are advantages for the primary data, there are drawbacks of the primary data also. First is the time and financial expenditure. So primary data collection requires a huge amount of time and financial investment. The lack of qualified interviewers or investigators. Third, potential errors at many stages such as sample selection, sample size determination, etc. So these are the drawbacks of primary data. So methods of primary data collection: first, communication method, and the second, observation method. So in case of communication method, first given, interviews. Structured and direct surveys using questionnaire, means structured and direct interviews to obtain the comparable information from respondents. Questioning to elicit factors such as knowledge, attitudes, intentions, motivations, and personal habits. Limitation given: respondents' inability, unwillingness of respondents, influence of questioning the process. And structured direct interviews give only broad guidelines on the kind of, in case of unstructured direct interviews, only broad guidelines on the kind of information sought are provided to the interviewer, and the remaining things are decided, means how to ask, what kind of questions to ask, are decided by the interviewers. So this is an informal style, not using formal questionnaire but informal questionnaires. Structured and unstructured indirect interviews to elicit information in an indirect manner in order to overcome the non-response or erroneous response. So here it may be possible that the interviewer may use a structured and unstructured method, may use so that's even may use projective techniques developed in psychology, example association test, sentence completion test, etc. Stimulus provided to get the words as a response to complete the sentence, thematic association test. These are all different kinds of tests which can be used in a structured and unstructured indirect interviews. So these are methods of communication method for collecting primary data. And the second, we have the observation method. So for the observation method, there you can see it involves making and recording observations without engaging with the object, not engaging with the subjects of the study or the respondents, often used in exploratory and monitoring research designs, used due to respondents' inability or unwillingness to provide accurate information. So need trained observer. Sources of error in primary data collection: sampling error. So error in the selection process that cause the sample to no longer be representative of population. Second error for the primary data collection is non-response error. When a unit included in the sample cannot be reached or has not been reached, example, a housewife, male ignorance, etc. These are non-response errors. Response errors: when the reported value of a variable differs from its actual value, then that is a response error. Sources of response error related to the investigator and the tools used by him. So here response error, it is investigators' dishonesty, willfully collect false information and provide it as investigator feels awkward due to the question. And the second, it is due to ambiguity. So investigators' dishonesty and due to ambiguity, a response error may take place. So that's all about the fifth unit, and that is data collection, quantitative and qualitative method. So that's it. Thank you all.